Hi, my name is Tara Walrod, and this is my Module 16 case study, Internet Use Violations. What do I know? I know Ms. Walker is a science teacher in a large, affluent high school. Her class is rigorous, and kids compete for high grades in her class. I know Dr. Forbes is the administrator and has been working with Ms. Walker to help her with her student relationships and reduce stress within her classroom. I do know that Ms. Walker has found an email that has led to a website with some highly suggestive comments, unkind remarks, and curse words, and a specific comment that says question that says, "Who wants Ms. Walker to disappear?" I can tell by the case study that Ms. Walker feels threatened. She has gotten in contact immediately with her principal and forwarded him the email. I know that the administrator has made printed copies of the email and the webpage, and that Ms. Walker thinks it could be a student in her class. The principal also thinks it could be a disgruntled student in her classroom, and that Mrs. Walker has left her apartment due to feeling unsafe. What do I need to know? Well, it would be great if I could find out the URL or the email owner. I know the principal, the administrator is working on that. I need to know in interviewing students if students are aware of this web page and what they know about it, where it originated. Does the district have a cyberbullying or threatening a teacher policy? If so, are there certain behaviors that constitute what is cyberbullying or a threat? If Randy or one of the other students did it, are there district mandated consequences? If they don't admit to it, then what is the next step? What was meant by the word disappear? And do we need to involve an SRO, the police? Does this in any way break a state law? The primary problem is that schools have a duty to care for all staff members and students. This teacher feels threatened, thus it's up to the school district to take some sort of action. There is a secondary problem here that's to be dealt with after this primary problem has been resolved. We know that Ms. Walker is a struggling second-year teacher, and she probably needs a plan of assistance on how to improve her relationships with families and students and reduce stress in her classroom. But again, that is a secondary problem after resolving the primary problem. Steps to resolve the problem. 1. Contact IT. I totally agree with that. See if the email or the URL owner can be found. If we learn who the person is, we will also want to contact the student and parents immediately. We may also want to get an SRO police involved if a policy or law supports that. Step 2. If the IT isn't able to identify the user, then the administrator will talk to students from Ms. Walker's class, including Randy, to see if any of them admit to this web page or the email, which means that administrators talk to students. In this case, talking to students from her class would be appropriate and ethical. The case study specifically discusses the talking with students in the morning concerning the website. If a student admits to it, then it's important to involve parents and the SRO at this point. If the student does not admit to it, then it would be important to involve the SRO police in helping conduct an investigation. It would also be important to note any laws that exist in the state around threatening or cyberbullying a teacher. Step 3. Consult district policy to appropriate punishment for threatening or cyberbullying a teacher. If a policy exists, the consequences will be whatever the policy states. If a policy does not exist, then it's up to the administrator to give appropriate consequences if it is a student action. And if the action was by a parent, a patron, or colleague, then the administrator will have to hand that over to the school district attorney or possibly the police to handle the situation. Step 4, make sure the teacher feels safe in her classroom and feels emotionally capable of teaching children. The administrator and possibly even other district officials must listen and talk with Ms. Walker to gauge her emotional well-being in working with students. If she and the administrator do feel that it is safe and she's capable of teaching, then she will need to make sure she doesn't use her classroom as an investigation room or any kind of questioning so that kids feel safe and comfortable in the room. If she does not feel emotionally capable, then I think it's up to the administrator to check with the district to see if there are resources that we could offer her. Step 5, if the person who did it is in Ms. Walker's class or the parent of a student in her class, then that student should be removed from the class. That's in the best interest of everybody. And then step 6, after the resolution of the situation, then the administration can begin to work through the evaluation process with Ms. Walker and help her with her pedagogy and her relationship with students. Strategies that I would use in implementing the plan. First and foremost, organize thoughts and information. Don't make assumptions. For example, the word disappear. I'm not going to assume it's a threat, nor am I going to assume it's a prank. Listen carefully to the teacher, district, and students to make sure to get accurate information. Be empathetic to Ms. Walker or the teacher. No one deserves to be threatened or cyberbullied. Be direct and focused on the issue of the threat when talking to students or parents. We know a lot of parents and students are upset about her class, but this issue must be resolved first. And know that this could possibly escalate into a lawsuit, so following protocol and policy is necessary. And then I would be careful to not overreact nor underreact to the situation. What is best for the students? The success of all students using part of the case? Well, the most critical issue here is dealing with any threat, because that's important to safeguard all students and personnel. All threats should be reported, just like this one, and dealt with by school officials and or the police department. In this case, the teacher immediately called the administrator and reported the threat and forwarded the email. The school now has to take action. Now, I believe at one point, school districts would kind of shy away from cyberbullying policies and say that because it didn't happen at school, it wasn't something they would deal with. However, we now know that it does affect kids' emotional well-being or teachers' emotional well-being, and it does need to be dealt with. So in this case, the administrator did make a plan with the teacher to talk to students and to talk to IT. So another piece of this puzzle is deciding the difference between an actual threat and a perceived threat. So in this case, the principal did make a comment that he thought it was a prank, which probably an assumption that an administrator should not be making. But having a district policy in place will hopefully help with deciphering the different types of threats. However, the policy has to be a little bit adaptable. We're hoping it's not a zero policy because, as we know, every situation is different and needs to be examined for appropriate consequences. I, as administrator, would follow through with the needed steps to find resolution. I feel all students and staff should feel safe, not threatened. And when something like this happens, I think it's a great time to make sure that we're teaching cyber citizenship. The answer isn't to take away all the technology, but instead to teach students the difference between private and public speech. All students need to understand the laws of cyberbullying, and all students need information on what to do should they ever feel threatened or cyberbullied. What was I thinking? I was thinking about how easy it is for people, students, parents, patrons, to post things anonymously. I was thinking that cyberbullying, harassment, and threats are escalating. Violence is escalating against teachers. I was thinking that teachers, good or bad, have to regularly already deal with academic variances within their classroom, behavioral issues, emotional escalations, hundreds of district and school requirements, and now they have another thing they have to deal with. And I was also putting myself in the shoes of the teacher, thinking, what would I do if I were in her situation? And then I was also thinking about phones and iPads and technology and what great tools they can be. However, again, there is a negative side. What was I feeling? I felt empathy for the teacher. I mean, I understand she's a struggling teacher right now, but this could really happen to any of us. I'm sure any teacher, good or bad, has had a student that wasn't fond of them. It scared me because everyone is at risk of being cyber threatened, even embarrassed online, or even bullied. And I was a little frustrated with the administrator who jumped to thinking it was a prank. Valuing, I value professionalism and integrity, and I felt the administrator did show this by calling her right back and making a plan with her that evening. Accountability, a need for resolution. I appreciated the administrator would be willing to call IT to resolve the situation, possibly even faster. I feel treating students and staff with sensitivity, kindness, empathy. And Ms. Walker felt threatened, and to the point she actually left her house for the night. So this illustrates her fear, and I did feel the principal used empathy and sensitivity throughout the phone conversation. Commitment to student learning and working to achieve student engagement and high outcomes. Again, Ms. Walker's a rigorous teacher, but she really needs that student engagement and relationship piece. And then I believe in working as a partner with district, administration, families, and community. And Ms. Walker did feel comfortable enough to call her administrator right away. However, it sounded as maybe she didn't have a really great working relationship with students and families. What issues are still unresolved or open for further investigation? Whose email or URL it was? Was it one person or a group of people? What the word disappear was referring to? Was it just wanting her to leave the school? Was it wanting to hurt her? Was it trying to be funny? Did the person act in malice? Is there a district policy or state laws with consequences? Should charges be drawn? So component 1 is how did I, as the building level administrator, demonstrate a sense of integrity and ethical behavior that serves as a model for all members of the school community and promotes the academic success of every student? Well, as the building administrator, I do wish to work to make sure decisions promote academic success for every kid. I think I demonstrate a sense of integrity and ethical behavior by serving all members of the community and being sensitive to a threat by making an immediate call or looking at the email or making a plan right away. It doesn't really matter when you're an administrator if it's an evening, a weekend, daytime. When a school person feels threatened, a student, a personnel, then the administrator should act. Second, as the administrator, I value and work with teachers to promote relationships with kids. So promoting academic success for all students. I do feel rigor is important, but so is engagement and relationship with families. Third, I would resolve situations involving threats or cyberbullying for anybody. I am an empathetic listener, and being a counselor, I've already feel like I'm a pretty good problem solver in hard situations. I would also want to make sure all teachers are emotionally able to teach. If a teacher has gone through something traumatic, like in this case, I would want to make sure that human resources was made aware, and that if she needed community resources, to make sure she's ready to be in the classroom. And finally, as the administrator, I think I must take every threat seriously for all students and staff. Students can't learn if they don't feel safe, and teachers can't teach if they don't feel safe. And then lastly, I also think it's really important to note that by educating all students about cyber citizenship on the internet, not only promotes the academic success of every student, but it really gives them skills for the future. Component 2 is how did I, as the building level administrator, treat people fairly, equitably, with dignity and respect, and with professional norms? Well, first, as the building administrator, I treat people fairly and adhere to ethical principles and norms by gathering facts. Also, I feel that by gathering information, whether it be through interviews or the IT department, that it's critical to remain professional and to follow policy and procedure. Second, I feel I'm respectful and polite when talking, meeting, or emailing staff, students, or patrons. In a case like this one, by immediately calling the teacher, remaining calm, and creating a plan, the administrator showed leadership and adhered to professionalism, and I would do the same. And when something happens, people are emotional, and it's critical that you are able to step back, read the email, make the call, and make a plan of action. Third, I feel that by remaining calm and listening to all different viewpoints, I treat others with dignity. In the case study, the principal went over a plan of action with her for the morning, and it included talking with students and even talking to the district technologist. I, too, would not belittle the ideas or thoughts of others and would be willing to contact for district assistance and involve the police if it's appropriate. And making people feel safe and documenting situations that occur are all part of treating people fairly, equitably, and with respect. The last part, how did I demonstrate a personal and professional code of ethics? As the building administrator, I feel I am the ethical leader of the school. I consider positive and negative viewpoints and analyze the rights of everyone, specifically teachers and students. I feel trust is needed. In this case, by taking swift action, the principal increased trust. I too would do that. I also feel as the administrator, I must consider all viewpoints. So what does the word disappear mean? Could consider it could be a prank, it could be a threat. First, I also feel I am a professional and credible in that I listen and consider all people involved. I have relationship with students and family, and I am willing to talk to students who may be involved. I also want staff, families, and students to have confidence in my abilities to handle everyday situations and crisis. Second, the case study mentioned the principal was respected by parents and focused on maintaining a reputation as principal of the most prestigious school in the state. So being an ethical leader means that the community trusts me and my decisions. And third, as the administrator, one must remain calm, be professional, act in a way that supports students academically and emotionally. The same for faculty. I think inspiring staff members to raise to a higher level of performance is important. In this case, the principal realized Ms. Walker was not raising to the desired teaching standard, and he was working with her on those things. Again, I too value rigor, but teachers must also engage all students, keep stress levels at an appropriate level, and have positive relationship with students and family. I think this is the heart of professionalism and inspiration. Thank you.